Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here, and welcome back to another insane things happening in fashion right now video. I know you guys really love these and it's really fun for me to do a news roundup, so let's just get into it because I have a few stories for this video. So an annual report just came in which measures how specific companies are doing in the fight towards climate change, and fashion is not looking good. The Corporate Climate Responsibility Monitor for 2024 looks at how brands are progressing in the goals they set towards the Paris Climate Agreement. And this year's results found that 5 major fashion brands are significantly off track. H&M, Uniqlo, Nike, Adidas and Inditex, which owns Zara, are the brands that they highlighted as not doing well. The report concluded that these fashion companies do not have convincing emission reduction plans and also haven't committed to reducing overproduction and moving away from their fast fashion business models. If you watch this channel, you could have probably guessed this, considering these brands are highlighted often on here. But it's also kind of interesting, and I think people pay attention to this report quite a bit. So hopefully some change comes from this, although I wouldn't hold your breath. Okay, next story is kind of centered around the Substack post that I did this week, the title of which was "Who Audits the Auditors?" The start of the whole story was that Zara and H&M were found to have been using cotton which had links to deforestation and land grabbing in the Amazon rainforest. Now, the twist on the story is that this cotton that the brands were using was certified by Better Cotton, which is a third party which promotes better standards of farming in the countries they work with, and a lot of fashion brands use them to ensure that their cotton does not have unethical or unsavory supply chains. Obviously, this has now been proven as not the case, and it kind of got me thinking about the lack of oversight for these third-party businesses that fashion brands seem to trust so blindly. I mentioned a lot of specific examples in my Substack post, so you can go read that if you want. But specifically about the Better Cotton case, Zara has now accused the certification scheme of a breach of trust. But again, it begs the question, why is Zara relying on a third party to do this job in the first place? Shouldn't they be certifying their own cotton? This is a big issue considering a lot of fashion brands have policies against deforestation in their sustainability commitments, and to be linked to Amazon deforestation, which is really, really important for the survival of the species, is really bad PR, but also really bad practice. So I think this is going to be a major story, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it develops and ultimately who takes the blame. My money is on Better Cotton because the current scheme supports brands offloading their responsibility onto others. But I wonder if it won't make some shockwaves in the industry and cause some change, however small. Okay, next. AI is coming for resale. Companies are currently developing AI software which will potentially completely change the way secondhand shopping is done. They're hoping to make an AI that will be able to show you clothes that Taylor Swift would wear, for example. So you don't have to put in all this effort yourself. You'll be able to tell the search engine just an idea or an aesthetic that you want, and it will come up with multiple options for you to shop. Obviously, this would be kind of revolutionary in resale platforms, especially because they are more of a jumble sale than your typical online fashion store. And I think that can be a bit of a put off for people coming into the fashion space. I know I kind of find it a bit daunting when I think about what I might want to shop secondhand. There's no one telling me what to shop, I have to know. So this could be really good progress. I think the need for this is already there. I've already seen sellers that tag their products with cottagecore or hashtag Matilda Jerf, or an influencer, I guess. So I think people are already bending this way, and AI should make the whole thing a lot easier for everyone involved, but especially sellers. So if you watched my video on fashion's water issue, you'll know the dyeing stage of a garment is the most polluting and most toxic of the whole fashion cycle. Well, French MPs have unanimously backed a ban on the use of PFAs, or forever chemicals, in our clothing. This is really good news because right now these chemicals are widely used for finishing garments, making them water and stain resistant, but they're also highly toxic to our health. They've been linked to major health concerns. This is obviously a major win and should really be in my good news section, which is coming up, but I forgot to do that. But for those of us outside of France, the EU is considering a similar ban, which would be Europe-wide. So we shouldn't have too long to wait, since it could go into effect as early as 2026. I know in the US there are multiple legislations which kind of depend on which state you're living and stuff, so this might be a little bit more of a step, but I think this is also happening over there too. The next story centers around the really iconic Dr. Martens boot and Temu, that ultra fast fashion giant that features really heavily on this channel. Basically, Dr. Martens has taken Temu to court for trademark infringement after Temu paid for some Google ads that had Dr. Martens' name in them. So if you don't know, brands can pay for Google advertising, which means that when you search something like black dress, for example, if a brand is paid highly enough, they'll be the first item you see on that Google search page when you hit return. Basically, Temu paid so that when someone searched in Dr. Martens, they appeared higher in the Google search than Dr. Martens themselves. Now, this doesn't actually go specifically against Google's advertising policy, because although Dr. Martens has trademarked its name, Google doesn't prevent them from using this trademark name as keywords for Google advertising. But obviously, Dr. Martens is not happy, and it shows how aggressive Temu is becoming in their advertising strategy. If you watch my other video about Shein's current situation being more dire than you think, you'll know that ultra fast fashion giant is facing a lot of problems and a lot of pressure from different areas. This is the same for Temu. And I think it's showing a bit of desperation here that they're risking legal battles. I mean, anyone with half a working brain would realize that using a brand's own name to advertise your products is probably going to get you sued. So maybe they just don't care, or maybe they're that desperate. I don't know, but it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what the court rules. This one's kind of a quick update, but remember when I said in my other video that supermarket fashion brands are kind of a silent killer and we're not paying attention to them enough? Well, Tesco has just released its profits for the last year, and its women's wear market did really well. The brand released a statement to say its clothing sales grew faster than the broader market, with women's wear being a particular highlight, growing 3.7% from the past year. And I think I need to do a whole separate video on this, to be honest, because it's really surprising. And I had a few of you comment to say it was so surprising that supermarket brands like Marks and Spencer, Sainsbury's, Tesco are such a big part of the fast fashion issue, and that we don't talk about them enough. So look out for that video, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it. Okay, we're going into the good news section now, which I think is really important because it's not all doom and gloom in the industry, and we need to see progress happening to keep our hopes. Best good news story is that the European Union has called to add textile waste to the Basel Convention. Now, if you don't know, and I didn't know, the Basel Convention is basically legislation that restricts specific exports to developing countries. And EU states like France, Sweden, and Denmark are calling for textile waste to be held under this. They want our cast-off clothing to be classified as other problematic waste streams that they currently prohibit, like plastics and e-waste. It wouldn't mean that these exports are banned entirely, but it would mean they're subject to a lot more scrutiny, and developing countries have to consent before it's sent to them, which isn't the case right now. I think this would have major impacts on waste colonialism, which is a massive, massive issue in fashion. And it's amazing news if it does go through. So we just have to watch this space to see if legislation comes and how quickly. The next good news is that secondhand clothing is set to take on 10% of global fashion sales. Last year, global sales of pre-owned clothes surged by 18%. Almost $200 billion worth of pre-loved clothing was sold. And this is forecast to reach $350 billion in 2028, which is only 4 years away. Consumers were citing the cost of living crisis and sustainability concerns as the major reasons for them switching over to pre-loved. And there was also statistics to show that this growth of pre-loved was not just limited to younger generations, and older generations were getting more and more involved in the movement, which is great news. There's also a little side story to this I wanted to mention, which is eBay has now joined Depop in removing seller fees on their platform, which is amazing news if you have clothes sitting in your wardrobe that you want to move on, but you want to make the most profit out of that. It means that those platforms will now not take, I think it was 10% of your profit earnings, which if you're selling something for, under £10 is quite a lot when you think about it. So again, really good news. For the next story, I wanted to share this startup, which is doing so much good in the industry right now. It's a Dutch company that's recycling up to 2,400 shoes per hour and preventing millions of them from ending up in landfills. So if you didn't know, shoe waste is one of the biggest issues in fashion right now. Every year we produce about 24 billion pairs of shoes, and 95% of them end up in landfills or incinerators at the end of their lifespan, which isn't that long. Because so often they're made up of different materials, it can be hard to break them down and recycle, just like when it comes to textile waste. But Fast Feet Grinded is the company that's trying to change that. They've created a way of recycling the whole shoe and turning it into raw materials that can be used in other industries or even back into the fashion industry. So this is, again, great news. Last one. It's Fashion Revolution Week, and that's so exciting. It's a chance for everyone in sustainable fashion to come together. It's a chance to call out brands. It's a chance to get involved if you haven't before or if you just want to do more. So go to their website and check out if there's anything local to you. And even you can do something online, to be honest. So just get involved because it's really fun and it has a major impact. But yeah, that's all the stories you need for the past month. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Let me know if you like this format. I still need to pick a new name for it. So if you have name suggestions still, send them in. And if not, I hope you have a lovely day and I'll speak to you really soon. Bye.